Hello and welcome to the 21st Bo Cameronian Arts Awards on set. I am Sabrina Hassan and today we have Anvesana, The Journey of 1,000 Steps by the Temple of Fine Arts, Kuala Lumpur. Welcome Shona and Hari. Welcome
Thank you
to On
much,
Set.
Sabrina. Thank you, Sabrina.
That's wonderful. Wonderful to have you and congratulations on your nominations.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You know, I've watched shows that featured Bharatanatyam and Odissi before, but I'm not as familiar with Kathak. Why Kathak?
It's one of the styles that I've been practicing over the last decade, I would say. So I think Kathak is not very known in the art scene in Malaysia. I mean, there's definitely few Kathak solo performance here by the Temple of Fine Arts students and teachers. But I think in Malaysia, it's still yet to be known as how Bharatanatyam and Odissi are. So Kathak, because I've been practicing it for over years, I thought, okay, I want to do Kathak. And I'm also a Kathak teacher at the Temple of Fine Arts, Kuala Lumpur.
Right.
So I thought I should, do a performance at least for me.
Yeah. And how did you go about collaborating with Hari?
Kathak style itself, it's a collaboration with music. Music plays a very important part in Kathak style because it's usually done live. It's usually done like a live performance. You will require a live music for a Kathak performance. So hence, when we wanted to do a Kathak show, I've reached out to Hari and say, will you be able to, help me with this whole Kathak performance and kind of put the music part of it together for the show. So yeah, music plays a very, very important part for Kathak performance actually.
Shona, you were the solo performer,
Yes.
and Hari, you were the composer and sound designer.
Yes, for a couple of the pieces I had composed some of the melodies which became the framework for some of her items actually. In terms of the overall sound and design, I think you see, like what Shona mentioned earlier, a lot of the Indian classical art forms rely solely on live music. So that in itself is a feature about Indian classical arts which kind of sets a certain tone and ambience. For example, the drone that plays in the background, like what we call the tambura, or the shruti, and that tambura basically sets the tone for the musicians. But one can think of it as kind of like an ambient sound that helps you find your center.
Oh.
So for a musician, the shruti or the tambura is highly essential. And then of course, when you talk about your instrumentations and whether there's a vocalist, what type of instruments you want to use. In the case of Kathak, we obviously need vocalists, and then you need a what we call a padant reciter, or padant basically is the person who recites the rhythmic syllables, especially for the technical sections of the performance.
Yeah. Okay.
You have either a violinist or somebody who plays the sarangi, which is a bowed instrument that comes from North India. Or you can even use a sitar. I'm sure in Malaysia people know what the sitar is, right? So it's a plucked instrument. And then we had a harmonium, which is the kind of like a accordion, if you want to call it that, but it's used in Indian classical music. And one of the key instruments is the tabla, which is the percussion instrument, because the tabla, the padant reciter, and the dancer, and the violinist, or in this case the violinist, really have to work together to ensure that the entire presentation is in sync. So as much as there is a lot of planning that is required, but there's also space for improvisation, and in fact that's what Indian classical arts is. It's while there are set pieces, but I would say 90% of the time it's improvised, or it's on the spot. It's really being in the moment and kind of experiencing it as you go. So
does that mean that every show or every performance is different?
It can be because Kathak is such that there's a lot of interaction between the dancer and the musician. So like in Kathak itself, what is being tapped on our footwork, there's a lot of footwork or our bowls that I say, it's what it's being played in the tabla, in the drum instrument. So it sounds very similar. So the idea is for us to replicate what exactly being played in the on the tabla and on my footwork as well. So there's a lot of interaction that way. So I will have to mention this. I think in the performance towards the end part of it, there was a bit of improvisation. So it is purely like how the tabla player was going. I think he was making a mistake, and then I was making a mistake, and we were trying to do it, and it was live. And to be honest, it was fun because we were like, trying to get it right, and it was the show, and we were like, hey, how do we make it right? How do you make it right? And someone came like, so I found it very interesting because it was not about putting on a show already. It's about I'm already in the show trying to seeing, okay, how do we work this? So I think that element of it was definitely interesting for me in Kathak performance.
Would it be true in saying that you have to be so skilled at what you do for you to be able to have that moment, right?
Yes.
It's like, because if you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to...
Yep, absolutely right.
Which is why I think like for both Shona and even for me, like we've been students of the arts for almost 30 years already. Actually, I would say about 30 years already, and having studied dance and music at the Temple of Fine Arts, and then learning music altogether. I think for us, growing up in that type of an atmosphere really kind of sets the tone, and because of the number of years of experience and mistakes, trial and error, therefore to be able to do a presentation like this, you're right, it requires a lot of experience, maturity, and importantly, heart. I think for Shona, this, as she said in the beginning, it was not so much about doing a show, but rather it was an experience that she wanted for herself, and I was fortunate to be able to. Actually, to be honest, this is the first time we are working together.
Oh, right. But you've known each other before this?
When we are married.
Right. Okay, I did not know this.
Yeah. I mean, we because it was my solo and
oh, that's a different conversation altogether, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, Hari definitely played a very crucial part of it. So this is the first time we are actually working together for a show.
How was that?
Yeah. I mean, the wonderful thing was that, me having learned dance before and she having learned music before, when I was sometimes, especially during the process of preparing for the whole experience, we would practice at home. We want to make sure that, things were in line. And I think it was, as much as it was practice for her, but for me as well, because see, my forte is more in line with Carnatic music, which is the South Indian classical style of playing music.
And Kathak is a North Indian side of part of India, correct.
And I would say in the last slightly lesser than 10 years or so, because of my seniors, I was fortunate enough to have dabbled in a little bit of the Hindustani music genre, which is North Indian music. And so when Shona spoke to me, I said, first of all, when she said she was going to do this, I was like, you know what, it's time. And I'm so proud of the fact that she has done it, and that we are here, and she's
and you're
nominated.
both nominated.
Yeah. Didn't expect that.
Yeah. And I think the fact that we know each other, we've spent so much of time together as classmates, as dancers, as musicians, so coming back home and whenever we need to go through material, it felt like something that was good and healthy. And I think I honestly we enjoyed it, and the fact that we did those practice sessions really helped both of us. It helped me tremendously, even though I wouldn't say I'm a fantastic I don't have great knowledge about Kathak or Hindustani music, but because we had those interactions at home and during our practice sessions, it helped me. So it was really a wonderful process to be able to go on this journey with her, especially. So yeah.
The Journey of 1,000 Steps.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's the title. And how was it incorporated in the performance?
A Journey of 1,000 Steps really resonated a lot with few things. I have to say two things. One, in the Kathak style itself, because Kathak style has a lot of footwork that comes in, and a lot of tuktas, tihais, turns. So that definitely resonated with the title, 1,000 Steps. But it also resonated personally to me. It's just not, the show also didn't come about, okay, I'm going to do performance, so I need to practice for the rehearsal, for the show. It was very part of my routine already, and that's what I was seeking for, I would say. It resonated back to the title, Anvesana. Something that I was searching internally and externally. How do I go into a routine where practice? I want to get into that. And because that was preempt already, that we were looking into, okay, practice, and the show came about. 1,000 Steps, a journey of 1,000 steps, resonated because in years of practice, it's like, that much I've put into in the style, on the art form of dance itself. So when the title came, I said, yes, this really resonated with me. I'm going to choose this. Yeah.
And what did you want the audiences to experience when they came for the performance?
I actually started the show off welcoming the audience into my practice space. It was not, I'm going to do a show, watch me, it was more about come and be with my journey in the dance. So I think the show element, the Kathak element, show itself, it will describe what is Kathak, what I'm going to do, what is the item about. So I will, as I go, I actually go to the mic and talk about it. And I think that's an interesting part, because you don't usually get a performer to go in to the mic and talk, because usually, you go backstage and then you have an MC to talk about it. But this, you hold the show for 1.5 hours entirely, from the start to the end, right? So for me, it was not a two-dimension, it was an interactive moment for me. So I believe the audience saw that, bringing them to the journey. So for me, I was thinking about that also, like how do they understand how this is going to work? So I think they did have a big takeaway from the show itself, how the journey was. And the location that I've chose was a studio. It was a studio, and I wanted that setup because for me, everything started in the studio, my practice, and the whole thing was about my sadhana, my practice. And I wanted that. So I hope the audience took that with them, the journey itself. And I think it can resonate with anyone, either a dancer or anyone who are passionate about anything. They will definitely bring them back, my passion with them back, or maybe, I don't know.
I think in this case, it was, not that it's unique, but like for Shona, having a corporate job, a 9-to-5 job, and then having a passion in dance was really what we wanted to share with the audience, that, I know there are many of us outside in the world that need to do what we need to do to survive, right? But then there's also a part of us that also wants to fulfill the dreams and the wishes that we have deeply, that's in our heart. And I think that's what Anvesana also meant for her and for us especially. And I just want to go back a bit to your a question about Kathak, and you earlier you said that Bharatanatyam and Odissi is so much more popular, which actually is true. So at the Temple of Fine Arts, because of our founder and our senior gurus, we had the fortune of inviting the legendary Kathak maestro Pandit Briju Maharaj ji, who is known for his choreographies for a lot of the Bollywood films that you see, Madhuri Dixit, Deepika Padukone. Yeah. So I think in Malaysia, a lot of people know Kathak as an art form that is related to Bollywood.
Yep. Right? I do have students coming in, so I know Kathak because I've watched it in Bollywood. And also, to change that, to educate them was very important actually.
Which is why I think that was another part of the presentation, was that aside from it being a personal journey, we wanted to really share with the audience what Kathak is about, even though it's limited to that 1.5 hours. Just to give you an idea of, actually it's not just about looking glamorous and stuff, but there are technical elements, there are emotional elements, there's a lot of storytelling involved. And coming back to your question now that you asked, I think many times when we talk about a performance, we are so caught up about doing things so perfectly, right? It's all planned, it's very prim and proper, right? From the announcement, to how we carry ourselves on stage. But this was something that we were actively talking about in preparation for the whole process, and that was to try and make it as down to earth as possible, which is why Shona said, the intimate setting in that studio was one. How she would address the audience, and how we would interact, the dancer and the musicians. We didn't want to make it seem like, oh no, if we have to stick to this plan, if not, we're screwed. So there were moments where there were a lot of there's a lot of moments where there's eye contact, there's acknowledgement on stage. There's if something comes. If something turns out very beautifully, the musicians say, "Oh, kya baat hai," or "Shabas," or wonderful.
Yeah. Because it's a lot of calculations. There's some, in coming to the right, it hit the moment. People will definitely appreciate that. So the style itself actually is very interactive towards the audience, the musician, and the dancer.
So very engaging as well.
Yes, it is.
So quickly, you mentioned like you are performing, you are also talking.
Yes,
you're right.
Correct.
How did you prep for that? Like the amount of stamina that would have required, an hour and a half, you said?
Yes.
So, yes.
I mean, I'll go back to practice. Yeah, it takes a lot of practice, like and the time that you allocate for the practice, and the stamina part of it's the demanding part, right? Like I personally had to work a lot on my stamina, but I think that's where my teacher comes in, right? Nadina Krishna, I definitely have to talk about her. She plays a important part in my solo, because I think if it's not for her, I wouldn't have done this entire solo. She is the one asked me, do you want to do your solo? And I think she played a very important part, because I think she was there to ensure that I am there to deliver my work, and I'm on top of my work. And she ensured that I do my runs every day. So my routine was crazy. Like I will say, because I work 9 to 5, I'll be in finance by 6 a.m. I'll do my practice up to 7:30. Then I go to work, and then I go to work 8:30 to come back. By 5:30, I'm here in Temple of Finance again. And then she will see me, and the rehearsal starts until 7:30 or 8, and then I'll take my classes, or sometimes I try and hit the gym because I need to work on my stamina. And then I come home, and it was intense. Definitely it was intense, but it was really fulfilling, I would say. So in that way, I looked forward for it. It was not something that I'm struggled, it was something that I enjoyed it. It was very meditative for me. That's what I was seeking for, I think I got the answer. But yes, the credit definitely goes to my teacher, who was also my emotional support, but also being there as a teacher to ensure that I'm on top of my work. And she will spend time with me of how I say the bowls, how can I say it differently. So she will ensure that, I do my runs, and then she will see, okay, are you saying it properly? It all comes down to practice. It's that's the main element of it. Yeah.
And also, just to add to that, I think the wonderful thing about live performances is that it's meant to be alive.
Yes.
So, while there is a need for us to ensure that, we look presentable on stage, but nowadays, when we talk about theatre and we talk about being this idea of realism, like being real and not just a mask and being put on, I think it's also good to share with the audience that these are real moments. For a dancer, especially in the case of Anvesana and for Shona, when she's done a sequence and then she has to go up to the mic and you can hear her heaving because she's trying to catch her breath. But I think those are the beautiful moments, because that helps the audience or anybody who's watching realize, oh my God, this person
is requires so
correct,
much.
correct.
It requires a lot of involvement in what you're doing. We're not robots. I think that's what art is. We're not robots actually. So showing that the realism in it is also what is beautiful, I think. And there was something that we did talk about.
I guess it comes with maturity, because I think in my past performance, it's always about, I have to put myself out there, I need to look good, I need to look a certain way, and I had to undo that for this show, because it was not about that.
Yeah.
So it was about...
How comfortable was that for you?
It was a challenge, because, especially you go to the mic, you need to be like, okay, I need to talk a certain way, I need to control, I need to breathe. But it was a lot of, I needed to undo that. Like, no, I want to be real. This is what the show about. It's about me just being myself on stage. And yeah, so that's how was it. I think that's what live music is, I believe.
Fantastic. Well done. Yes. I hope you are able to share it also with a wider audience. You know, our traditional art forms, I think, we need to find ways for it to reach more. And it's not just about the art itself, it's about how you say, showing what is real, that connection with people, that engagement, being present. So very important. Thank you both for being with us today. Congratulations on your nominations once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. That wraps up our conversation for today. We've just had Anvesana, the journey of 1,000 steps with the Temple of Fine Arts. I'm Sabrina Hassan. Thanks for watching.